Hi guys, welcome to Flowcast, a podcast by Flowout where we chat with successful entrepreneurs, freelancers, and other amazing professionals that are crushing it in their game. We are Flo and Peter, and we'll be your host on this audio journey. In this week's episode, we'll talk with Charles Tichenor, Facebook's top 100 expert in the US and founder of Disruptor School. We'll get to know Charles, who is going to share his best tips to maximize your advertising performance. So without further ado, sit back, relax, and enjoy the conversation.
All right, like Flo said in the intro, today we are here with one and only Charles Tichenor. Charles is the founder of Disruptor School and a Facebook advertising expert that helps companies drive more than $1 billion in revenue. Charles, welcome to our podcast.
Thanks for having me, you guys. I hope you guys are doing well. This is going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it. This will be a good way to spend the afternoon. Let's make making money easy for people. I'm excited. Let's go.
Yeah, I'm excited as well. I mean, we're not from advertising world, so I think we're gonna learn a ton in this conversation. And yeah, to kick it off, let's dive into your background. Like, how do you find passion for advertising? Where it's coming from?
Yeah, I think for me, I stumbled into advertising after a radio career and I was a touring musician as well. But what I enjoy most is the ability to solve puzzles for a living. Like, I get to effectively play video games all day long. Now my video game is Facebook mostly. And instead of like getting extra lives, I get real money. But it's at the end of the day, it's just getting to play games and solve puzzles, which, I mean, that's what it feels like for me. And it's also really rewarding. And I get to see the change in people's lives. And I'm good at a few things, and creative problem solving and analytics and storytelling tends to be what I'm best at. So the perfect nexus of those three completely bizarre skills happens to be digital marketing. So I can work on a laptop from anywhere and help people all around the world be more successful. And now I've really just dedicated my efforts into teaching all of the things that I've learned over the last decade or so, and to, really letting that be what I do every day. Because getting to see that feedback from individuals and seeing the light bulbs go off and seeing folks that were struggling and may have had to lay off employees or give up on their dreams, shift from a place of worry and stress to abundance and confidence is, I sleep well at night. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, definitely nice. And did you learn all by yourself? Was like all self-taught, or did you like go to university for like business or something? Or did you like learn this along the way when you did your career on the radio?
Yeah. So when I was a radio DJ and touring musician, I did go to business school. When I got started in digital advertising, this is back before there was a Facebook pixel, back before there were conversion campaigns, and the best digital marketers were really good at like Yahoo ads and like email. So this is, when dinosaurs roamed the earth, like 2012.
I didn't know what Yahoo ads are.
Yeah. Believe there were entire departments of agencies that did just that. Yeah, I wasn't for me. So I had the luxury of kind of coming in when there wasn't a playbook. And that was great because nobody knew what you were supposed to do, which meant that I was never really taught bad advice. And because I had much larger budgets than most people, I mean, by 2013, 2014, I was spending $1 million a day. And because I had a big business school background, I was able to do case studies really, really well for Facebook. And I effectively worked with them for years, sort of as like a test pilot for new projects and new tech. And it really helped work with them to design how the platform works. And some of the tools we worked on are still used by a lot of people today. And some of them that I thought were going to change the world were complete failures. Like, my hit rate isn't the best, but I think that goes with anybody that is out there testing the edges, you know? And so over the years, I just basically, what most people get to see on a daily basis is something that is 3 to 4 years old for me. And that gives me a great perspective on where things come from, how to use them, where things are going. And so I kind of learned on the job, but also part of my learning process was working with Facebook to determine how Facebook should even work. And at a bigger level, because I view digital marketing and Facebook more as business amplification tools, working in-house at agencies and then also growing. I'm on my 4th 8-figure business on a 9-figure run rate in the last 5 years. I've had the opportunity of working with really, really successful mentors, women and men from many different industries. So I've had the opportunity to fail passionately in extremely high level rooms and then grow from that, which I'm always eager to do. A bit to a fault, but that's kind of how I got to where I'm at. It was not a safe route. I don't recommend it for people. I was fired from a lot of jobs, but it also meant that I got to learn from a much wider variety of really high level people than most people got access to.
Yeah, so if I understand correctly, you basically grew your knowledge alongside with the industry, right? So, and this was a lot of trial and error. And did you, from the beginning, did you work with such big budgets? Like, did you already learn on those big budgets?
So I was running an organic agency back in 2012, doing growth hacking. And my biggest client, who was this writer, was paying me about $2,000 a month. He fired me. And he's like, hey, look, man, nothing personal. I put $100 into Facebook ads and it did more for me than the $2,000 a month I'm paying you. We're still friends. Like, we're still buddies, right? It was just like, it didn't make sense. Like, business wise, I was like, it hurt my feelings a little bit, but I was like, also like, hey, that's great. Like, good for you. And he paid out his contract and everything was good. And so the next day I put my credit card into Facebook and started running ads to promote my band. I'm a musician. I still have, like, music tattoos. Like, I'm making a record like this weekend. I'm going to my buddy Greg Hetson from the Circle Jerks. We're going to go make a record at his studio. And within 3 months of that, I was running Jamba Juice and like Viking River Cruises. Within 3 to 6 months of that, I was doing some like anti-smoking stuff and working with Robert Rodriguez, the movie director, doing things for his movies. And because I'm in LA, that just happens to be the accounts I stumbled into. And then within 9 months, I got a job as supervisor at Omnicom, which is my first ever day job. But I had, at that point in time, with 9 months experience, I was by far the most experienced person in the room at running Facebook ads because it was just still so new. And they had gotten like $50,000 a month, $100,000, $200,000 contracts. And they needed somebody to manage them. And the clients were like CBS Television and Nissan cars. We also had brands like Levi's jeans and Activision video games and stuff, and Henkel, so I did a lot of like all those brands. And so somebody needed to manage it. And so I was a guy with an MBA from like a reputable business school and had been spending money for longer than almost anybody else had in the room. I was spending more money than my bosses ever had. They had never done it before. And at the time, Facebook was like this weird, we have this saying in America, it was like a redheaded stepchild. It was just this ugly thing that nobody wanted to deal with. And nobody knew that it was going to be like the #1 thing in 5 years. That wasn't like on anybody's radar, but it got to the point where within a year or so of getting fired from that one job, I was managing 7 figures a day. And that was a huge opportunity because basically Facebook was the thing that ended up working, and we had really big clients and really big budgets. And I was able to make mistakes by the tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars a week. And you learn really fast, like I think I made $7 million of mistakes on Activision, and Call of Duty was still the #1 video game of the year. Like, the ability to fail at that high a level and learn from it was just a gift that I mean, it's incredibly stressful to fail at $7 million, but you also learn a lot. And I chose not to give up, and I just kept doing it. And part of me was stubborn enough to be like, hey, these people are paying me money. I've never been employed before. It was my first day job. Was, a full-on salary budget with a team and like $1 million budgets. Like, I didn't know how to use Outlook, so I didn't know how to send like emails. And I was showing up in like band t-shirts and like torn jeans and like cowboy boots, and everybody else was wearing a suit. And I was their boss, and they had been working for like 10 years. It was weird. But I mean, that's kind of how I got there. And I don't think that's possible for really anybody else to do, because it was just so many people had to make mistakes for me to get that opportunity. And that level of oversight on that much of a budget is just, that lack of oversight on that much money is something that I don't think very few people will ever have the opportunity to do again.
You've mentioned you not only worked with Facebook ads, but directly with Facebook. How did that come about? Can you expand?
Yeah, so when I was supervisor at Omnicom for Resolution Media, Facebook was desperately trying to get ad agencies and people to use the platform. Like, this is back when it was really bad and nobody wanted to use it. Like, it was just this weird thing. People were like, really? Advertising on Facebook? That's dumb. I mean, that changed over the years. So when the Facebook rep, and there was like one main guy that was coming to the Los Angeles office, Omnicom was trying to talk to anybody that would like listen to him. I was a person in the room that literally nobody else wanted to talk to, because everybody else was doing Yahoo ads and email and keyword things, all this other nonsense. So me and this guy became friends. And whenever they had new products or they wanted to do new things, I was like, yeah, sure. I got to spend, an extra $2 million next month. I can spend this money. Let's have some fun. Like, it was part of the contracts with a lot of the clients that we had to do alphas and betas. We had to innovate to have an edge on the rest of their competition. So the fact is that they were like, here's a couple $1 million. By the way, you have to do something that nobody else has done. And then Facebook comes in saying, hey, we have a whole bunch of stuff that nobody else is willing to touch. And, oh, by the way, I have an MBA and I can write like a really high level case study. It just kind of worked out where the guy was like, the guy Ben at the time, he was like, do you want to do this? And I was like, sure, let's do it. And I ended up running the first lead gen ads on Facebook, and a lot of other things from that. And as a result, I got to be there for the development of a lot of teams and a lot of products and a lot of services. And that's kind of how it came about. I was the right person in the right place with the right background with a large enough budget that nobody ever really cared what I did. And then somebody else in the room saying, please, can you try all this other stuff that we have no idea how it will work? Again, like, I couldn't plan that, but it worked. And I just happened to be the right guy in the right place. That was the right skill set for it. And I just wanted somebody to talk to about the work I was doing, because nobody else cared. Because to be fair, where I was at, I was a small fish, like other places were spending $20 million, right? Now I had a $1 million budget. Like, nobody cared about what I was doing, which was just weird. But that's kind of how I got there. And now we're a decade later.
You have such a deep insight into Facebook's early days. So I think you're a perfect guy to ask, what do you think about Facebook's future? Where is metaverse taking us, or where will we as users and as advertisers take the metaverse and the meta itself?
Yeah, I think three things. First, I think we will eventually see Facebook move away from the concept of the metaverse. Maybe not fully, but a lot of businesses have sunk a lot of money into trying to make virtual reality work. And it may or may not work, but I don't see that being the tool that everybody's going to use. Primarily just because it's not easy enough to access that I can do it in a business meeting with nobody looking at me, or like in traffic. I mean, I live in LA. Sometimes traffic is you move 5 feet, you park for 5 minutes, you move 5 feet, you park for 5 minutes. Yes, I'm on Instagram, like, you know, whatever, guilty. That is such a snackable, bite-sized experience. I don't see virtual reality getting to the place where it's that accessible. Hey, look, and if it is, I think things will change. But the idea of having to slap a PlayStation to your face to make it work is probably not one that's going to work in those situations, right? So maybe augmented reality has a better shot than metaverse, who knows? On a consumer psychology and behavior level, I'm of the belief that basically Facebook has reached what we call market maturity. By the year 2000, basically everybody had an email account. By 2010, everybody was an active user of Google. I think everybody has a Facebook and or Instagram account that's going to. I mean, hey, look, there are new people that are coming of age, they're going to get it, but it has reached this place where basically everybody has email, uses search, and has a social media account. That's just kind of standard. Now, maybe there's some disruptive thing. Maybe Elon's taking over of Twitter changes it enough, or TikTok blows up, and who knows? But for any platform to displace where Facebook is in the user base and the data set and everything, like, will take years and years and years to do, to the point where, I mean, before search, before email, it was television. How many people had a TV in their house? How many people had a radio in their house? We're just at the point where Facebook and Instagram is the same thing. And so there's a lot of people that are scared of, like, oh, it's not growing as fast as it used to. Okay, well, because they got everybody. Like, there's literally, you can't grow that fast forever. And there's all this worry about, like, oh, well, they're losing money and the ad spend is going down. Every single year, Facebook ad spend has gone up. Facebook has gotten more money from people spending money on ads every single year since the ad platform started. That's probably not going to change anytime soon. So I think it's one of those things that's just ingrained. You know what I mean? We're going to have it. And there's always been people telling the stories of how television's going to make radio obsolete and how the internet will make all this. At the end of the day, everybody's kind of got a little bit of everything. It might not be as special as it was, but that doesn't mean that it's not a core part of our experience. So I think ultimately that's sort of where the future goes. And then as advertising is concerned, as we see more privacy and more of this, you know, especially the EU is leading the way, but the blocking of the information that advertisers can see in the personal information that we protect of ourselves. I think marketers will be forced more and more and more at making ads that appeal to the business model of the platform. Like, for instance, if your television commercial is so offensive that people change the channel, you're not going to be able to place that ad on TV. If your ad is so bad that somebody wants to leave Facebook or Instagram, the price for you to place that ad will continue to go up. You're not going to be able to do a bad job and be successful in the same way that you were able to in 2016, 17, 18, 19, when the attention was underpriced and there was a booming economy around the world. And any idiot could throw up a picture of a brick on the internet and make $1 million. It's just not the way it is anymore. And so I think a lot of the stories of things are bad or they're getting worse or it's harder and all that other stuff is just the people that don't have good business fundamentals or have been taught to value the wrong things by people who are probably overworked, underpaid, and overworked and trained by somebody else that wasn't good at their job. Those people are going to struggle more and more. But before we ever had the internet, there were plenty of businesses around the world that were making, putting ads on a billboard, a successful way of running $1 million business. I would say, objectively speaking, Facebook or Instagram is probably better than a billboard. So if billboards aren't obsolete, Facebook won't be either. You're just going to have to be better at using it. And I think that's the biggest gap.
I see. Very interesting perspective. And we talk about the past, we talked about future, we talked about Facebook. I want to know about you. How does your typical day look like today, like these days?
I mean, my typical day as a business owner, with Disruptor School, I'm generally making some educational content. I love sitting in front of a camera and like making videos and stuff. Like I make 2 to 5 TikToks a day. If you subscribe to my YouTube channels, I put out an 8 to 10 minute video probably every single day. I'm doing interviews every day. I love that stuff. I also have a content. I've figured out how to set up my time to create content in a way that allows me to be everywhere all the time, every day. I legitimately don't think there's a social media channel where I'm not posting repeatedly. And I'm including also publications like Reddit and Medium and Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and TikTok, et cetera, et cetera. So I love making that stuff. And then I'm talking to students around the world, trying to help them with their business and with their ad accounts and their problems, which means that I get a couple hours a day of extraordinarily tactical problem solving from many, many different types of businesses. So my exposure to the way that we solve problems isn't just, well, this is my business and my ad account. It's a million different businesses that are set up in a million different ways, where Facebook or email or Google or Snapchat or whatever all have different values to them, and having to figure that out. And I have to figure that out on my feet, like live on camera with people that are paying good money to have me help them. And I've been doing that for years. So I've got thousands of hours of that. So when I'm creating educational content, I'm also building on thousands and thousands of hours of high level critical thinking with hundreds and hundreds of data points. And then I'll occasionally look in on how my business is doing, my retail businesses, my direct to consumer businesses. But the way that I have things set up, they don't require a lot of management. One of the beauties of Facebook kind of being something that is reached market maturity is, well, if you've ever set up email, you know that you don't need to manage it 10 hours a day. Like there's literally nothing that you can do that's productive. It takes me 2-3 hours a week max to manage several $1 million in Facebook ad spend a month, because I've set up the machine to be good at its job. I've trained employees to not need their boss. I've trained the factory to not require micromanagement. And then my job is just to improve the day-to-day operations, make sure things aren't broken, and then work on the business model. So I used to work 12, 14, 15 hours a day. I probably now realistically work 4 to 5 hours a day. Although if you ask my wife, I'm probably always working, and it's more just because I'm like slowly responding to comments and DMs and emails and making content and stuff. But that's also fun for me. So like, what's work versus what's fun? There's a very gray area when you basically don't have a boss, and what you do for fun is also how you make money. So there's a bit of that. And then on the side, I got 2 pups, a lovely wife, and I play music. So, I mean, it's a nice life. But I just took a 5-day vacation in New York City, and I think I opened my laptop all of 30 minutes. And businesses were successful, even though I wasn't checked in. It worked. So it was fun. So, I mean, it's a good balance where I'm at right now.
Yeah, but you mentioned it wasn't always like that. Can you take us just a bit through that process, how you achieved this point?
Yeah, there's a couple of things. Number one, I used to, when I was working for other people, either at agencies or in brands or building agencies or training or consulting and stuff, less than the consulting, but more when I was an employee. I was forced to deliver on work and look like I was an active and productive member of the team, right? Like that's what you want. And it took me years to realize that I was very rarely being evaluated on the volume of work that I did, especially in the world of digital marketing. I don't find that brand owners care if you work 15 minutes a day or 15 hours a day. They care about the end result of your work. And that gave me ultimately a freedom to figure out how to massively amplify the impact of the work that I was doing while reducing the overall workload. And I love there's this old saying, I think it's from Bill Gates. So if I'm wrong, whatever, Bill Gates said it, and who cares? This is the internet, don't trust everything you hear. So this is from Bill Gates, and he said, engineers are inherently lazy. And the point is, you can think that you're valuable because you're working hard or you're working a lot of hours, and maybe that's what's valuable for you. In the world of digital marketing, in the world of business development, when your job is to produce money, you are judged in how much money you make, how much money you produce. Nobody cares if Steve Jobs worked an hour a year or 20 hours a day. Did we like the products we got from Apple? Yes or no? It becomes so binary. So that's a big freedom, is ultimately was figuring out, okay, I don't need to work hard. I just need to work smart. And I began to pride myself on, how can I automate my work? How can I make better workflows? How can I figure out a way to save time? And the more and more time I saved, the more and more work I could do, because also I'm a bit of a workaholic. So if I can do an 8-hour workday in 2 hours, I'll just get 2 more jobs. And then I'll basically work 6 hours a day, but I'll get 3 times the amount of money. And I kind of did that for a while. And it was high stress when things were bad. They were really bad, but more often than not, there wasn't much wrong at all. And I just had to sit in dumb meetings and do all that stuff. But the point is, I think that's how ultimately I got to this place. And the mindset that I have in solving almost any problem. And I think one of the reasons that I've been so successful in the world of digital marketing, and if you follow me or you listen to my teachings, it's very much on leveraging artificial intelligence, very much on leveraging machine learning, very much on saying, I have business partners that are very good at their jobs. And my job is to not micromanage my employees and my business partners. My job is to not be needed and for the business to be successful. So my focus isn't in how do I do the work really well. My focus is in how can I make the people that do the work not need me to get better and better at the work. Generally speaking, that means that we have to reduce the amount of problems that we're trying to solve. We have to be higher level thinkers about the impact of the work that we're doing. And most importantly, We have to stop asking the question of how, but rather we have to ask the question of why. And I think that fundamental shift changed the world for me. Now, to be fair, it made a lot of bosses hate me because I'd be like, why? And I'm like, well, you're supposed to, but why? There's no good. No good would come with this. I can do this other thing and it'll do the exact same thing, but it'll take no time at all. But they don't care when they're evaluated on the performance. And if you can do the same work in 15 minutes that somebody else can do in 2 hours because you solve the problem differently and better, great. And so a lot of the ways that I approach business development, a lot of the ways that I approach digital marketing, and the way that I run my life is way more of asking the question why, and then figuring out the simplest answer to that question. And that's sort of been my ethos for everything. And again, sometimes it's an incredibly disruptive way of solving a problem, and it can really upset other folks that don't agree with that line of thinking. But when you're evaluated on the output of your work, nobody cares about how you get it done. And that's sort of how I got to this place, I guess. That's a very long-winded answer to your question. I'm sorry for being on like such a soliloquy today. That's my apologies. I'll try to be more brief with the next one.
No, we love those in-depth answers, and I definitely agree with you. Also, like when you put micromanaging out of the equation in an organization, I also think like this just amplifies the productivity to everyone. Like people start feeling like more appreciated, smarter, and yeah, it's like I think this is the only right thing to do. And yeah, I want to like talk now about building traffic. And since like a lot of startup founders are listening to our podcast, and when we talk about startups, those are like not yet super established companies, oftentimes in early stages. What do you think is more important in the beginning to grow traffic, like to focus on the organic or paid traffic?
I think the answer to that is really dependent on your business model. Some businesses are built, I think there's two schools of thought. Some businesses are built on the back of hunters. I can go out there today and I can produce profit, and I'm going to do it every single day. And for those businesses that are very transactional, very product based, very much like they're salesman driven, right? I get somebody, I'm going to make profit today. I'm focused on ROAS and things like that. For those businesses, I think paid running ads is great. I think that's a great place to start, because if you can run ads at a profit, wonderful. I think you can be successful, but ultimately you're limited. And how many sales calls can you take? How many doors can you knock on, right? More successful businesses are built on the way I like to call farming, right? So for hundreds of thousands of years, humanity was hunters gatherers. And then eventually somebody realized you could plant corn and one person could throw some water in the ground and get 100 people to be fat. And then civilization was born. So the point to that is, it doesn't matter if it's organic or paid. What you are trying to do is monetize attention. And if you are more focused in the acquisition of attention to monetize that attention for profitable customer journeys over time, where you're getting repeat purchases and cash flow, I think in those places you can leverage organic, because you're starting a snowball that's going to roll downhill. And the more and more revenue your business does, the more and more you can invest in paid media. But your ads, you're not going to live and die by your ads being good. In general, if you live or die by the success of your ad account, what that tells me is you don't have a good business, or your business is run poorly. Your business model isn't designed well. So almost every 8-figure, 9-figure business that I've seen, and I've grown brands from 6 to 8 and from 7 to 9 for years. One of the key elements they all have in common is they don't need ads to be profitable. Ads absolutely make them a 9-figure business versus a 7-figure business. Ads are the reason they're worth 50 million instead of 600,000, but they don't need anything. And they can be a $600,000, $700,000, $800,000, $900,000 business. When you pour ads onto that fire, they become $10 million businesses. But if you need ads to work, as soon as you have a bad day or the wind shifts, that fire goes out and you're going to starve in the wilderness. I'd much rather be a farmer than a hunter. So that's sort of the long-winded answer to the question, but hopefully a little bit more brief than the last answer.
Yeah, I love the analogy. And yeah, since you like really good at case studies, like can you like give us like a concrete example, like explain us like we're 5, like how would you approach building organic traffic like a new startup?
Sure.
Like you can
so,
you can choose, you can also choose the industry and like what kind of startup.
Yeah, I mean, so some of the brands I've worked with, for instance, like 310 Nutrition was a brand I worked with. Now I came in and they were already a low 8-figure business, but they were built on the back of, there was a really strong Facebook group, a community. When I got there, it was about 50, 100,000 people. By the time I left, it was like over 500,000. That business was really good at making Instagram content and Facebook lives that got people interested in the product. And when they came in, they became lifers and they kept spending money over and over and over again. And the big shift that kept that, so it was about 3 years that went from 5 million to 15. And the next 20 months went from 15 to 100. And it was because we started to look at that business was really good organically growing attention. Let's use ads to amplify the impact of what organic could do. Thinking of ads as basically, organic, when you put it out there on YouTube or on Facebook or any social media platform, it goes out and it kind of earns attention, right? It's called earned media, right? If it's really good at earning attention, what happens when you pay to get more? Generally good things. And so that's a version of a business where they used Facebook communities. They used a lot of video. The brand owner, his name is Tim Sharif. He would come in a lot of times, like every month, and do like a live. We had celebrities that we paid to use the product and talk about it on their Instagram and all that stuff. And we got a lot of attention. And the shift from 15 to 100 was, we figured out, one, how to get people to pay us more money, right? Which helps. We turned the average customer from being worth maybe $100 to a couple $100, which is huge. And we amplified the acquisition of that attention. And instead of chasing 20 different things, we basically said, this model works. Let's get rid of every distraction and throw everything we can into this until it breaks. And we went from 3,000 a day on Facebook to 30,000 a day, right? Like it went from, having 20, 30, 40 grand in Shopify at the end of the day to, as soon as it 100 grand, everybody would just go home because the day was done. It might happen at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It might happen at 5, but that happened every single day. And that really came from around what we're talking about, putting the organic as, if it doesn't work organically, it's not a good ad. And if it does work organically, when you pay to promote it, the monetization of that attention, doing the one thing that your business does really well, is a huge force multiplier to the rest of your business. So that's one approach. There's a lot of approaches. The point of it is, however you get that attention, maybe you're a TikTok influencer, maybe you're a great YouTuber, whatever it is. We just talked about a Facebook group, so I'm trying to get up other examples. As soon as you know what you do well, and you know the product or service or offer that somebody buys from you that's most likely to get them to buy a second time. When you align the thing that you do well to earn attention, but the thing that sets up future cash flow, you then take some of this cash flow to amplify this attention, getting effort. And then you just print money. Like all the other stuff is a complete distraction. So the simpler you can make the amplification of this thing, the easier it is to manage. And so that's hopefully not necessarily the most direct answer, but hopefully a bigger, broader approach. And I've done that for, I worked at the CBD business that we had, over $20 million exit last year. And theirs was all affiliate crushed. Great. So we threw more money at the thing that worked. Right. And so we're doing a lot of SEO. And so like we leverage, SEO attention and affiliate to amplify the SEO, and then boom, money. Right. There's a million different ways of doing it, but that's sort of how every 8-9 figure business I've ever worked for, that's what they all share in common is that skills, that singularity of business objective, and figuring out a way to earn somebody's attention and then amplify that. I always like to think of it in real world examples. If you've ever been in like a market and there's 14 people selling the same thing, but there's one person that's getting all the attention. So for whatever reason, this person screaming at you is better than the other person across the market, across the alleyway screaming at you to sell the same damn leather bag that 14 other people tried to sell you. Whatever reason, that person's better. All I need to do is make sure that person's voice is louder, and I'm going to make more money. Figure out your version of that and get rid of literally everything else. For me, that tends to work. I don't see that. I haven't had that fail. Let me put it that way. And I've been in the game for a decade.
Yeah, what I love about this answer is exactly this broader view, looking of the success of the business as a whole, not like just one-off ad campaign. And I'm sure this mindset also helps you when running your own business, which is currently Disruptor School. Can you tell us everything about it? Like, where did you get the idea, what it is, how are you different from others?
Sure. At a very high level, I've been training agencies and working in-house at brands and training marketers and people for many, many years, right? We've already talked about something. I've got thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of critical problem solving, leveraging the tools that I helped build that are now industry standard platforms. And, my students and clients have done well over $1 billion in revenue. I have a little bit of experience and have made a lot of mistakes. So you can also leverage the, what did Charlie do that failed? We're not going to do that. Like, that's very helpful. And part of that is figuring out the frameworks for success. The simplest version of how to do work and how to think about problem solving. Now, some of this stuff I've stolen from bosses at Guthrie Renker, the people behind like Proactive and Ginsu Knives and all the infomercials that rob us in our sleep at 3 o'clock in the morning. All of those people, and other huge brands. There's no reason to just name drop, but just big 8, 9, 10 figure brands. What do they all have in common? What do they do? And one of the things that almost all of them do is they all have very simple frameworks for how to manage their team and their time for success and profit in a way that makes it as easy as possible for people with the lowest level of training to have the greatest level of impact. So what does that look like? So Disruptor School is really me teaching that. Now, my flagship program is the Facebook Ads MBA program, where I walk people through business development, CMO training, and on the back of Facebook ads to do exactly what I do. Like, if you were to hire me in your business, instead of paying me an ungodly amount of money to run it for you, I can just train you for a fraction of the cost to teach you how to do literally everything that I would do. And then I'm there to answer your questions and help you along the way so that I can kind of force multiply my impact, and you can save money and it becomes a drop in the bucket. Like, you pay however much money it is, the return on that investment could easily be 10, 20, 50, 100x. Like, that is not uncommon. For people to make an extra couple million because they came into the school, and by no means am I charging anywhere close to that kind of money, right? So Disruptor School is really designed to teach people that. And what really sets it apart, there's a lot of people recycling the same kind of bad information, but more or less to teach people how to get started. But what if I have a $3 million business and I'm stuck? What if I have a $10 million business and I'm stuck? What if I have an ad agency and I'm realizing that I'm working more and more and I basically live and die by the strength of my sales team because every client's leaving in 3 to 6 months? There's nobody you can go to for help. There's nobody. Everywhere you would go to, when you join these big mastermind groups and you go to big conferences and you see all these people, it's full of salespeople that don't actually, most of the time, they're not actually the one doing the work. Most of the time, they're trying to sell you on paying them to get somebody on their team that's probably overworked and underpaid and poorly trained to kind of decide if this is what they want to do for a career by putting the future of your business at their feet. That's not a path to success. There's a reason why the vast majority of ad agencies fail the vast majority of their clients. There's a reason why you got to where you are and you can't get any better. So Disruptor School is designed to overcome that problem. With myself and all the other educators, for instance, I'm the kind of person you would bring in, like, my business is stuck at 5 million. I just can't seem to make this thing work. If we work together, odds are I can get you to 10 or 20. Easy. That's not a problem. If all the other things are together, right? And business model and growth and acquisition is your problem. Now, if not understanding your customer is the problem, one of our instructors, Sarah Levinger, she's a consumer psychologist. She can help you understand the needs of your customer in a way that is going to allow you to speak to them, because maybe your business model has worked really well with all the low-hanging fruit that you got, and you doing a poor job of reaching anybody that doesn't already know about you gets you to $5 million. And that's great, but you're never going to get to 100. So how do you understand the consumer psychology? Or, maybe you need to understand the the workflows. And we have this former COO of Warby Parker, Laura Lynn, coming in and doing stuff. And the idea of all of this is just all the really amazing women and men in the business that are the thing that takes a business that has plateaued to the next level. Instead of trying to sell you on hiring my company, which basically means I'm the salesperson, and on day 3, you never see me again, and it's some 24-year-old kid that I'm paying pennies on the dollar to work on your account. Instead of that, we're training you to own that knowledge so that it becomes institutional expertise, so that you're not hiring another consultant and another consultant and another consultant and another agency and chasing your tail for the next 2 or 3 years trying to figure out the next thing that kind of works. And the honest truth is, one of the biggest problems, whenever you hire these people, they do really well for a couple of months because they're doing something different enough that you're able to exploit some more low-hanging fruit, and then it drops off. I can't tell you how many times people are on their 3rd ad agency in 2 years, and everything started off great, and then it kind of dropped, and then the agencies started to say, well, let's do discounts, let's do sales, let's do all these other really desperate things to make them look good while your business fails. You don't need any of that. The problem isn't the agency. The problem is you don't own the institutional expertise to not need them. So Disruptor School is that solution. And as far as I'm aware, there is literally nobody else doing that. Nobody's saying, hey, look, you're a successful business and you've stalled. Here is an entire curriculum of problem solving so that you can overcome the individual needs that you have. And then we offer that in the forms of ebooks and mini courses and full-on immersive programs, whatever level it is of support that you need, so that your business never needs to hire an agency again, or that you don't have to go through churning through client and sales teams and all this other stuff. Or maybe your agency is just stuck. Like I had some people come through and they're scaling their clients instead of their client list. They're making way more money, and they don't need to hire 20 more people to make it work. And because they're just so successful, they don't need a sales team anymore because everything is inbound. Those agencies have 10x'd in the last year when everything's getting hard and everything's difficult. No, they're just doing a better job. At the end of the day, success leaves clues, and there's a meritocracy to how money gets dispersed. And if you're good at your job, you're going to get more opportunity. So we teach you how to get there. And that's the big thing, is that any one of us, you could probably pay 5 figures to sit in a room for a weekend. Why don't you pay a fraction of that? You can teach the one skill you need from us to get you to the next level, and then come back when you're ready for the next one. That's sort of the business, and business is good. That's kind of how it's going. You know, I can't complain, but that's really the idea, is trying to help people that don't have help. And it's okay that you run a $10 million business and you're desperate. That's okay. We're here to help.
So it's basically like I could say like a mini MBA with like really actionable and practical advice that like founders or like managers can just implement straight away to like unstuck their business.
Exactly, to unstuck it. And here's the framework, here's the thinking, here's the thought process, here's the execution piece that you need. In the simplest way that makes the lowest level employee more effective. I find the easiest ways of making a business better is make the entry-level employee as powerful as you can. The honest truth is, McDonald's runs $1 million a year locations with 16-year-old kids as managers. They don't know anything about business, and they're running $1 million locations. Why don't you do the same? That's sort of the idea, you know?
Yeah, that's actually like a really good perspective. Yeah, I've never thought about that. But like, since you were saying a lot about like you help companies that stall, like I have like a question, like why do some companies like perform so much better and don't stall with running basically like the same advertising strategy than the others, like on a similar budget and like similar strategy, the same industry? How can that happen?
Generally, it's business model. Business model is probably the most important thing. What do you do with the money you get? What do you do with the attention that you earn? Anybody can sell one thing. But if you and I have the exact same business and I'm a hunter and you're a farmer, and then winter comes, I'm dead and you got fat. Next year, I can start all over. I mean, I wouldn't, because I'd be dead, but the point is there'll be 100 more of me, and you're just gaining more ground and gaining more ground and gaining more ground. How you run your business is tremendously more important than the intricacies of the execution of any one mid-level person that has a myopic view of success. And sadly, I think people have been trained to just value the wrong myopic views as how they define their worth. And I think that's really sad, because it's crushing the dreams of so many folks that are trying to put themselves on the line to provide for their family and create jobs. And the reason they fail is because somebody else was poorly trained, overworked, and underpaid by somebody that wasn't good. And we deserve better than that.
So at the Disruptor School, you also like teach those fundamentals. You go beyond ads and understanding customer, also how you can like optimize your business model alongside with advertising.
Yeah, and the curriculum is always expanding. I mean, by the end of next year, we'll have consumer psychology, brand positioning, pay-per-click advertising, social media advertising. We'll have how to exit your business. We'll have all of these fundamental things, operational. So basically every C-suite executive in your business, there'll be a version of how you can create that employee from scratch, more or less, in this thing. There'll be finishing school for any mid-level manager to become C-level executive without having to just basically get lucky enough to fail enough and enough opportunities and learn from enough people to earn it. And that's sort of the idea, because that doesn't exist. So All I need to do is meet that one middle market, and I'm going to I will create thousands of jobs from doing that, and hopefully provide the opportunity for a better, not to be too altruistic, too grandiose about it, but like make a better place for people to be more successful, and go from maybe having to give up on their dreams to providing opportunities for other people. And that'd be great. People did that for me. Maybe they shouldn't have at the time, but they did. And I made the most of it. And so how do I turn that around? Like that person that hired me with 9 months of experience to manage a team of 10 people that had all done the right thing their entire life. And it was my first day job. And I was like 30 years old. And I was managing $1 million a day. Like, objectively speaking, I probably wasn't a good hire, but I learned a lot. And just how do I put that back out there? And that's I think where I'm at in the world, because I've kind of conquered all the other puzzles, and it makes me feel good. At the end of the day, I'm incredibly selfish. I want to work as little as possible and feel as good as I can, put some money in the bank. And this is the way I'm going about it.
You gave us so much great advice today. Before we let you go, one more thing. Do you remember the best advice you've ever received, and how did you implement it?
Oh man, that's really good. There's a lot of things, but I'll say what's top of mind for me today. I don't remember where I learned it, but I came across it maybe 8-9 years ago. And it was simple as nobody cares. And what I mean by that is, no matter what's important to you, no matter what you value, no matter all of the things that you've done, very rarely are you ever given value to the level of intention or effort you've put into something. Yeah, your mom cares. Nobody else does. Our intentions don't mean nearly as much as the ramifications of our work, especially in the business world. But even in our interpersonal things, I might intend to do a lot of things, but apparently my wife will tell you, I use the wrong towel in the kitchen. I use the wrong sponge in the bathroom. Like I'm trying to do good things, but apparently I'm creating a lot of havoc. My intention is, well, great. But if I screw up a lot of things and make her have to work twice as much, does she really care that I meant well? Yeah, there's a little bit. Like, I'm not being, there's no malice, but it also created harm. And once you realize that your intentions mean far less than the fruits of your work, I think you can remove your ego from situations. And there's an old saying, your ego is not your amigo. And the more and more you can give, and I say that as a really egotistical marketer. Like, that's a lesson I needed to learn.
Got you. Charles, it was great talking to you. Thank you for your time. All the best, and I hope to chat to you again soon.
Thank you, guys. This was fantastic. I really appreciate it. And thank you so much. And I'd love to talk with you again anytime. Reach out to me. And best of luck to you. I got to hop on a call with Tel Aviv and go make some money.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for joining. It was lovely talking to you. And yeah, ego is not your amigo, right?
There you go. Tagline of the day. See you guys.